Edgar, and welcome to my podcast. Today I will be talking about horror/crime related things, and a trigger warning because I will be talking about some heavy stuff. Some of the things I will be talking about are urban legends and other horror/crime related things. So, on to the first story, and again, another trigger warning. So, this story happened in Casma, Peru, and it's the case of Consuelo Berrocal. So, basically, what happened is that this lady believed that her son/her baby was a reincarnation of the devil. She ended up killing and eating her baby because she believed that both of her kids were the devil's spawn. But basically, I'll take it back to get context on why she did it. So, Consuelo went through a traumatic childhood, and most of her life was traumatic. So, when she was younger, she was abandoned by her biological parents, and she was in an orphanage type of thing, and she was waiting to get adopted. In this whole process, she was also physically abused, so she was sexually assaulted. I believe both of her kids were conceived because of that abuse. There wasn't a lot of information on this case, and was more like the interviews and just on what she did. People never talked about her past. She had a 1-year-old and a 2-month-old, and she showed no remorse. There is an interview that I can show you of her explaining it and exactly what happened. The cops arrived and she confessed to everything. They automatically thought she was crazy and they put her in a mental hospital. The reason why she did it was because there was a voice in her head saying to kill her baby, because it was the son of the devil. I will now play the video.
Estaba jugando con mi hijo, estaba jugando y jugando nomás lo hice. Gerito, te voy a matar, te voy a togues, le decía así. Y ya me lo había comido.
¿Lo mataste?
Sí. Lo maté y me lo comí. Las vísceras nomás me lo comí. Los peluchecitos les hablo. Yo no me contestan, le digo, Gerito, vas a cuidar la casa, le digo así. En nombre de mi hijo, le digo así. Gerito, vas a cuidar la casa, por favor, le digo. Mi Gerito, mi Gerito, mi Gerito, mi Gerito, mi Gedo, mi Gedo, mi Gedo, mi Gedo, mi Gedo, mi Gedo. Y a veces me arrepiento, a veces no me arrepiento.
¿Por qué?
Porque digo, están bien ahí, digo.
¿Dónde?
¿Dónde están? En el cielo.
Consuelo Berrocal, 32 años, ha pasado los últimos 7 años de su vida entrando y saliendo de penales e institutos mentales. Hoy se le ve tranquila y alegre. Sería difícil, casi imposible imaginar que fue capaz de cometer un espeluznante acto criminal.
Jugando con mi hijo, estaba jugando y jugando nomás lo hice. Gerito, te voy a matar, te voy a togues, le decía así.
Ella no padece de esquizofrenia, ella padece de epilepsia.
Lo maté y me lo comí.
Se presentan cuadros psicóticos dentro de epilepsia.
Las vísceras nomás me lo comí.
Alucinaciones y cometer actos muy cruentos contra todos.
Lo he freído y me lo he comido.
Y lo que les ha contado, todo es cierto hasta donde ella recuerda.
De repente, puede que pase.
¿Qué cosa?
Esas cosas, con la insistencia de las voces, de repente me atrevo a hacer algo.
¿Cómo qué?
Como esas cosas, como matar a mi hijo, así, atentar contra la vida de mi hijo. Así, o sea, tengo miedo. Por eso tomo las pastillas.
So this happened in 1993 in Casma, Peru. She explained that she was playing with her kid and then the voices kicked in. And she even told the child, like, I'm gonna kill you, then eat you. She cut him open and cooked his insides, then ate him. On to the second story, which is an urban legend that comes from Oaxaca, Mexico. There's an alleyway in Oaxaca called El Callejón del Muerto, which means Dead Man's Alley in English. It's a very known legend from the people who live there and who are from there, and it's gotten its name from a crime that happened back in the colonial times. This time, there wasn't any street lights like we have now. They would use oil lanterns in the night, and that night, there were these night watchmen called serenos, and they would be the source of life. They would patrol the streets and would help out the community. On the night of the crime, it was a very foggy night, and the only light that was outside was the serenos, and all you can hear is the footsteps of them patrolling the streets at midnight. Then, during midnight, there was a final chime from an old cathedral clock tower that started to ring, and once the chime ended, all they heard was a loud, disturbing scream of a man in pain, which were followed by howls and barks of dogs. Once it became silent, all the sereno saw was a silhouette of a man running to the direction of the temple. It was said that the man was running in an abnormally fast way. It looked supernatural, and he was also holding a lantern. He was on the way to the temple to get a priest, and he told the priest that there was a sereno who was stabbed, and he wanted to give his final confession to the priest before he dies. The priest agrees and follows the guy with the lantern to the alleyway where the guy was stabbed, and he sees the sereno on the ground laying flat. The priest goes up to the guy while the guy who brought him there stays back a couple of feet holding his own lantern. The priest goes up to the guy that's dying and listens to his confessions and prayers that go on for a while till he dies. But the priest couldn't really see his face because of how dark it was, so he calls the guy who brought him there and then no response. So he looks back and the guy is gone, and all he sees is the lantern. So the priest picks it up and goes to the dead body and looks at his face. The guy who's dead was the same guy who brought him there to the dead body, meaning his spirit brought the priest there. After that, weird things started happening to the priest. He came out with a horrible fever that almost made him die, and after he recovered from that, the ear that he heard the confession with became deaf with that ear. To this day, people say that they still see the silhouette of a guy walking around the alleyway. For my third and last story is another Mexican urban legend about duendes. This story took place in Michoacan, Mexico. There was a musician and he was with his band and they were playing. He ended up going home, but he had to go through a little shortcut, and he went into the woods and saw these duendes dancing. They looked at him and saw him, and they were like, yo, you, come, play for us and we'll give you a bunch of gold. They say that because they saw an instrument on him, and he was like, alright, bet. So he started playing, and when they were finished, they gave him the gold. He was going back to his house and knocked on the door, and his wife literally looked at him like, what the fuck? Like, in shock. And she was like, yo, I thought you were dead. She also said, you've been gone for so fucking long. Where have you been? Where have you been all these years? She had kids with his best friend, and they were all big and stuff. He was like, I was only gone for an hour. I was with these duendes and I was playing for them. What are you talking about? He also said, they gave me all these gold coins, and they were like, what gold? These are a bunch of pesos. They're not even real gold coins. And the musician was like, fuck, bro. This means that time for duendes is a much different time than human time. And that's all for my podcast. Thank you for listening, and maybe I'll try to post more on my YouTube channel, which I'll upload this on, and my past podcast, and probably post some clips of the podcast on either my Instagram or TikTok. So then, thank you again for listening. And one more thing is that I'll probably, once I put it on my YouTube, I will put timestamps to what story is which and everything.